Okay, welcome back to mixing cat Wrights by my side in Universal Audio's Luna. I'm going to start today with doing some tape stuff on the inputs and outputs and go from there. I know we've had a few questions about the bleed from the vocal mics and everything. We'll get to that here in a second. One of the things I wanted to do first, though, was besides the tape, is kind of a conscious mental mix of how I want this to sound at the end. That's going to dictate what we do as we go. In my opinion, this song should probably have sort of a Motown-ish kind of sound to it. Maybe a daptone kind of feel, so a mix of modern and vintage. And having that in mind, that's going to truly dictate what we do on each channel. I'm probably going to mix a lot with just groups, the way it used to be done. And we're going to start that with the tape. So if I was in a studio recording this, I would have definitely used a tape machine. And I'm going to put one on every channel. And let's do that right now. So if I go here, I'm going to put the Studer on here. I'm actually going to use the 456 tape and 30 IPs. And actually, you know what? I have a preset I've always used for this sort of thing, a vintage kind of feel. It's pulling down a little bit of the high frequency and the repro EQ. It's pulling up a tiny bit of the low frequency, and I'm going to run it at 30 IPs at +6. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that onto each track. Okay, let me make sure that even on these tracks we have the right setting. Yep, 30. Good. Okay. I'm going to play that for a second, and then we'll turn it off and hear the difference. Yep, that's what I wanted it to do. And now I'm going to come over here to the mix bus, and I'm going to do sort of an end-to-end tape kind of thing here on the insert on the mix bus. I'm going to go ahead and put the ATR 102, and I'm going to use the a preset that I use quite a bit. That is it's a 2-bus 7.5 IPs. I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to pull the noise down. Maybe a little bit of noise, but I've got the transformer on. The wow flutter is on just a little bit. Crosstalk is on. I've got the 456 tape. It's the same tape that we're using in the Studer, set at +6, and it's on a 1/4 inch. But I'm using 7.5 IPs because that's actually pretty common for these older recordings. I haven't really changed anything over here. Now, one thing you'll notice is there's a lot of bleed, especially on the vocal mic, and that's probably the most important part. My assumption is that they probably recorded this and wanted to include a scratch vocal, and this was it, but we're going to use it because that's what we have. And that's kind of the way it used to be done too. So, you would record right off the floor with everybody around you. So we're going to use it. I'm going to, first of all, put in an SSLE channel, and I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'm basically going to use a bit of an expander or gate on this just to pull down some of the things that aren't vocals and to expand the things that are vocals. It's not going to be huge, but it's going to help a little bit. So what I'm going to do, first of all, we'll take a listen to this, and I'm going to engage the expander. Okay, so I'm going to pull this release back a little bit. It helps if you put it on the expander and not the gate. It helps a lot.
Rainbow colors fall from clear blue skies. I never worry when you're by my side.
Okay, essentially what I've done here, we have an expander going on, which is kind of pushing down a little bit of the background bleed, and I've got the filters going here on the low or the high pass filter. I'm up at around 80, and on the low pass filter, somewhere around 8K.
Fall from clear blue skies.
I'm trying to get rid of some of that plosive pop that's going on. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and put the Pro Q2 on here.
Fall from clear blue skies. You in the dark.
Okay, all this is doing is cutting out some of that low end as well, and cutting out some of the plosives when she says certain words.
Fall from clear blue skies.
Okay, now I'm going to put some of the old school mojo on this thing with a 610A.
Fall from clear blue skies. I never worry when you're by my side. I travel far to see what I could see. Fall from clear blue skies. I never worry.
And to go with that old school mojo, we're going to pull up the old 175B compressor here.
Fall from clear blue skies. I never worry when you're by my side. Fall from clear blue skies. I travel far.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to put a little bit of slap on this thing with the old J37 tape machine. And I have an old preset that I use on here. I'll show you what I'm doing here. I use this old Motown slap sometimes. It is an 811 formula, regular bias, and it is set to be an insert. Is set to the slap at 184.
Fall from clear blue skies. I never worry when you're by my side. I travel far.
All right, let's listen to that in the mix.
Fall from clear blue skies. I never worry.
Some of that processing has brought out some of the S's, so we're gonna de-ess that right fast.
Fall from clear blue skies. I never. I travel far.
That's the one I wanted. Okay, good.